welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and we talk with a lot of chefs on this podcast frequently about the importance of using fresh ingredients from local farmers and producers, and I would really like to do a better job of highlighting some of them on this show. That's what we're going to do today. My guests are Kevin Dohrmann and Jen Miller. They are the owners of Miller Dohrmann Farm, which is just one of the most well-known and well-respected farms in the area. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to start off right away just by giving you guys some credence and listing some restaurants that you're either currently working with or have worked with you recently. Block 16, The Boiler Room, Au Courant, V. Mertz, Dante, Via Farina, Semo, Lola's, Coneflower, Casa Bovina, Fig, Corner Kitchen, Le Cordier. I mean, I'm basically at this point just listing off a list of my favorite restaurants. It's pretty incredible. Like, the point is, when the best of the best are looking for, when they're looking for produce, they're coming to you. What is it, do you think, about Miller Dohrmann Farms that has allowed you to create such a strong reputation in this community?
We provide unique products. Two of our most popular items is whole wheat stone ground flour, and this whole wheat is grown on our farm, and we mill it on our farm, and then we sell it. I don't believe there's anybody else around
that I know of
Omaha area that is doing that.
The whole package.
We do the whole package. The other thing is that we stone mill corn, locally grown corn, and then we sell that as polenta. So those are two shelf-stable.
And the rye flour is also unique.
Oh, yeah. Rye flour is very popular. We grew that. Sorghum, sorghum flour. So we have a couple of different flours that
small grains.
No one else is selling and no one else is growing.
So tell me, what's special about those things? When restaurants are like, oh, I have the opportunity to get this, they're jumping at it and they're coming to you.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it's ground fresh locally. So it's not stored in a train car for a year and then ground in a Minneapolis mill and then bleached so that all the nutrient value besides the starch is gone. I mean, there's nothing left in most flours that you get. So, and the taste is also gone. So you have to use it up right away because it has the oil and the germ and the endosperm with it, or freeze it, to keep it fresh. So that's the most unique thing about our flours, that it's stone ground, so it doesn't ever get too hot, and it's fresh. And that's unique. And even if you buy whole wheat flour from the grocery store, it's got the bran mixed back in after it's been ground and stored. And so the challenge for a lot of people that wanted to make flour like that is you have to use it up right away, or it'll go bad if you don't use it up within a few months. And some of the flour that you buy in the grocery store could easily be a year old before you ever get anywhere near the plant.
Exactly.
And so for us, it's grown in the dirt locally. I harvest it in July, and then we sell it throughout the year, but we grind it fresh every couple of weeks. So,
how did you guys identify that there was this hole in the market where, and you guys sell other stuff on your farm. We'll get into that a little bit, but this specifically, having that fresh ground product, did you talk to restaurants and identify that this was a hole, or was it just kind of like, hey, nobody's doing this?
It was more than nobody's doing it. And then we met with a few bakers and chefs and restaurants and said, we're going to thinking about this. And they said, well, how much can you make? And we said, I don't know.
How much do you want to buy?
How much do you want to buy?
That was more the question.
Well, and then the other side of it is we started the farm after I retired from the IT business, and she retired from the advertising marketing business, and so she's sort of an advertiser by nature, and I'm more of an
operational.
And we both grew up on farms, so we both knew what it takes to have a farm and to have the tractor and to have the combine and to have the grain bin and to have the grain cleaners and to have the tractor or the bins and the buildings and all the stuff you have to do it, which is most small farmers in a vegetable market or small farmers can't do it. And the big guys that have 1,000 acres of corn don't want to mess around with a tiny little product like this because you can't sell it anywhere unless you create your own vertical market. And so for us, the big breakthrough was probably a meeting with Le Cordier where they said, how much can you make? And we said, well, how much can you buy? So it's sort of this negotiation process because the mill alone cost about $15,000. So you
It's a big investment up front.
Yeah, if you're not going to sell 5 pounds a week to somebody, you're not going to spend the $15,000. So,
No.
and that's just one of the items. You know, you've got all the cleaning equipment and the combine and the bins. And
no one really knows how dirty grain can be when it's harvested. So
we clean it 3 times.
We have to clean it 3 times to get all the dust, all the dirt out of it, and it's ready then to be milled. And it smells so fresh once it's milled.
We put our nose to the grindstone, literally.
Yeah,
That's
literally. And it smells
You
great.
smell it, and you can tell if things are right.
Uh-huh. Okay, so I want to get into the origin story because you started there talking about you guys both have backgrounds in farms. But first, I want to just highlight a couple other things that you guys offer. You mentioned the wheat, alfalfa, oats, barley, corn. Oh, your sweet corn. Honey, eggs, and seasonal vegetables. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, I think, is going to be about your relationship with restaurants and supplying restaurants. But people can go on your website, millerdohrmannfarm.com, and they can select and purchase several different products that will change throughout the year. So I just want to highlight that as well. If anyone's listening and they're just like, man, I could really use some of this stuff, you have that ability. And there are also pop-ups that people can come to, but we're going to get into that as well. So you mentioned it, Kevin. You guys both grew up on farms, got out of that lifestyle for several years, and then came back to it once you retired. Did you always kind of feel that pull to come back to the farm, or was it more of like when you retired, just like, hey, we used to do this thing, we could go back to that?
It's funny. It's a funny story because we got a dog first.
No. The funny story is it started off with a pull-behind camper, which we realized we needed to get a pickup to pull the pull-behind camper. But once you have a pickup, you need a dog. So we got a dog and a pickup, and then we realized we needed a farm because the dog needed a place to run. So the farm just kind of was an afterthought, really.
Now, what are we going to do at the farm?
And then we got the farm, and then we decided, well,
let's experiment with crops.
There were so many things that he and I both grew up with that so many other people had no idea that was just so common knowledge to us. I grew up with row crop and beef cattle and a large garden. And you grew up with...
The gardens Mom did. Mom was a gardener like her mom was. And Dad, we milked cows and had pigs and sheep and chickens and everything possible. And my dad was sort of an inventor on the side, too. He was always building things or making things work. Because when you're a farmer, you many times have to figure out a way to fix things. You can't always run to town, and it was...
No, a successful farmer actually is a jack of all trades and a mechanic, really. So we just kind of put our heads together and we started experimenting.
What can we do that people might want to buy?
The first thing that we came up with is obviously our sweet corn. That was something that I grew up with. And we knew we needed to have our sweet corn. And
you loved sweet corn, too.
I love sweet corn.
Who doesn't?
Oh, my
But she has to have it planted on her birthday or the world's not right.
Exactly.
So that's my birthday present every year for her.
I grew up with it always being planted on my birthday, which is April 24th. And if you look at the growing season, it generally is worked out right, where then it's harvested the middle part of July, which frees us up to do other things in the fall. So it started with the sweet corn, but then we started experimenting with...
something we could sell all year, and it would have a lifespan, shelf stable. So that's where the flowers and the small grains came in.
So I want to go back a little bit further. How'd you guys meet?
On a bicycle trail?
Bicycling.
Well, tell me about it.
Well, I was on the 4th of July about, I don't know, 16 or 17
years ago.
Riding on the Bellevue Trail around the curve on the creek down there, and there was a girl in front of me, and I thought, well, that's an interesting view, and so I went back to my office at Coast Century the next couple of days, and she stopped in to sell to our marketing person some cups or some bottles
or mugs or something.
And I recognized her.
I was in the presentation room trying to get the owners to agree upon what they wanted to buy. And in the middle of everything, he said,
I think I know you.
You were on the bicycle trail 2 weeks ago around 11 o'clock in the morning.
On the 4th of July.
on the 4th of July. And I simply said, okay,
That's
all
creepy.
right. Would you like the coffee mug, though?
But do you want the coffee?
So that was 17, 18 years ago.
Yep.
And now you own a farm together.
Now we're going to farm together.
It's just wild, but really cool. Okay, so you start. Okay, let's start there. Why did you get a camper? Because you said the camper was the impetus behind all this, right? That led to this.
Yeah, I wanted to get a camper to begin to, see the country, and I was getting old enough where I thought it was going to be fun to take the kids and go see the Grand Canyon and all that. And so we did. We went to the Grand Canyon, and we were coming down out of the mountains with my Toyota
Sierra,
whatever,
something like
Sequoia.
that.
And
Sequoia, that's
it
it.
would pull the camper fine, but it wouldn't stop very well. The tires started getting hot in the brakes, and I thought, not doing this again. It was scary.
No.
So I said, I have to get a bigger truck. Or something that'll pull the camper better. So that's how we ended up with the truck, and it's kind of a joke. But both of us kind
We
of wanted
always
to
say
be
that's-
retire to
Yeah.
the country. So we found we were on a bicycle ride going north to Fort Calhoun.
Corporate Cycling Challenge.
Yeah, and there was a
Highway
sign that said for
75.
sale. This little farm was for sale. So I said, we should check that out.
And next thing you know,
We bought the little farm. It
We
was
bought-
12 acres, and then bought some additional land to go with it. And then we also rent some land. So that's kind of the short story.
How serious was that conversation when you see that land and you're just like, hey, we should buy that? Was
Well-
that just kind of a comment that you tossed out, or was it just like,
No,
hey,
we had
this
been
is
We'd
looking.
been looking.
We'd been
Okay.
looking,
We'd been
so it
looking.
was kind of luck that we both noticed the sign.
We both knew we didn't want to live way out. We know we wanted to stay close to Omaha, and it was a gem, really, that we could find someplace that was literally 15 minutes from Dodge.
It was zoned agricultural, and had a little bit of farm ground and some spots for the house.
And ta-da, we have 2 dogs now.
so
And
wait,
two
does that
chickens.
mean you need another farm?
Maybe so.
No,
give him
one
ideas.
farm's
One
enough
farm's
room
enough.
for
Don't give
both
him any
dogs.
more
Probably.
ideas.
That's not a 1-to-1 ratio.
not a
thing.
requirement.
No,
right.
no.
That's right.
So, what does, and obviously you guys had some background in it growing up in it, but like, what does one even do once you purchase that land? And okay, real quick, backing up, is this 2013?
Yeah,
that
2012.
okay, 2012,
2012.
2013, that area.
Somewhere
Yeah.
around there.
Your first social media post was in 2013, so that's what I'm working
Yeah,
off of.
so-
But that was
Okay.
probably further back than that.
Yeah.
Well, we started by the farm that we bought had about 2,000 dying Christmas trees on it. They were 30-year-old Christmas trees. The guy had started a Christmas tree farm, and then
He was a botanist,
well, he's a coach.
coach at,
And
I
he
forget
loved plants.
where, yeah.
And he
loved
just loved plants and flowers.
yeah.
And he had planted thousands of Christmas trees, and they were all in the process of dying because of Scotch pine disease. And so they're fine until they're about 20 feet tall, and then they started falling over. So we knocked the trees down and started trying to figure out what we could do with the ground that would make sense. So we knocked all the trees down and put them in a pile in 2012, and then started by rebuilding the barn that was there. And then when we got all the trees pushed off to the side, then we decided the ground was pretty good and we could probably grow our sweet corn patch there. So that's where the sweet corn patch has been.
Sweet corn started
So it was
there.
getting the ground ready to farm, and then accumulating the equipment, the planter and the tractor and all that.
And we started with, we still have just simply used equipment. Everything we own is used.
Yeah, mostly from the 80s.
Mostly because it's small and it
Farmers
can,
were smaller.
and it's much easier to handle in small, land
Yeah, if
patches.
the smallest combine that John Deere makes today new is probably a $300,000 piece of equipment. And my combine is the smallest combine they made in the 80s, the early 90s. And if you can't even turn some of these combines around in my field. They're so big.
No, they're very, very large.
Yeah, so that's part of the game if you want to be in the small grains, to go out and try to harvest it with a scythe.
It's romantic but impossible.
Seems cool, but
until it's
you
like
have to do it.
95 degrees and it's hot and the rain is going to come and you need to get it harvested. And you might have other things going on as well that you have to work around.
So what we did first was kind of lay out the plans of what we were going to grow, which was going to be sweet corn. But then you can't grow sweet corn every year on the same land, or the worms will come.
Interesting.
So we
Okay.
have to rotate our crops on different ground every year. So the rotation, because we don't want to do a lot of chemicals and we're trying to do things not organic
Sustainable.
certified, but organically oriented. And so we do crop rotation. So we plant sweet corn one year, and then we'll put in cover crops like and small grains like rye and wheat, and then we'll go to alfalfa because alfalfa puts nitrogen back in the soil, and then I can grow alfalfa for 3 or 4 years on the ground and accumulate, and that helps. And then I've got a market for the hay, so the ground is doing something useful, and it's regenerating the soil for us. And so then after 3 or 4 years, we can grow the sweet corn again, or at least every other year. And that way we treat the ground well. We know it'll be there in 100 years of farming, kind of like our grandparents did with, small tractors or horses if we had them. But it's small scale.
Small.
And it's a lot of
Small
work.
scale.
But
A lot of work.
rather than just spraying the chemicals and then no weeds, we have to cultivate and fight the weeds.
Weed.
And then
There's a
because
lot
we
of
don't buy a lot
weeds.
of fertilizer, we have to rotate the crops. And because we want to keep the bugs down without insecticides, we rotate the crops. And so, like, we don't plant our tomatoes on the same piece of ground every year because funguses and blights and all kinds of nasty things will get you if you do plant them in the same spot every year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot more work and planning than I think just
Most people understand.
Most
Yeah, the
people have
average
no
consumer
clue.
would know. How long did it take to put all these plans in motion or put them all
Well, that
together?
was kind of the first 3 or 4 years, is figuring out what worked, how our crop rotations were going to be, what she could sell. So, like, she sells heritage tomatoes, some of the most beautiful tomatoes that the restaurants just love them, but they don't keep very well. So if you don't pick them the same day you take them to the market, you'll end up with a puddle of tomato juice in a box because they're so ripe and
The heirloom quality is
flavor
beautiful and flavorful,
horrible to ship.
but they won't last long. So, and restaurants know that and respect that. So constantly I'm communicating with restaurants what I have and what they need. And so it's truly a relationship with restaurant chefs and their staff, and really listening to see what they need and when they need it.
Yeah, what they can use and what we can sell and we have to try to make money on it, so, which is also a big deal because you can grow a wonderful, I don't know what, that you can't sell.
But you just never know. So you have to listen to the restaurant chef. You have to kind of always be there for them. And every week I do restaurant deliveries. It's just myself. In the summertime, that means picking and weighing, loading, and getting in that vehicle and getting to those restaurants as soon as possible before it's 95 degrees out, because I don't have a refrigerator truck. So it is truly
It's a lot of work in the summer.
It's a lot of work in the summer. Most people have, again, no idea.
Because we plant the tomatoes, she has to raise them from seeds too. So in the springtime, then what she does is her and her friend Laura plant 1,000 seeds instead of the 100 that we're going to need. And then they sell 700 of them at our spring plant sale.
One of our big,
big pop-up
pop-ups,
events.
it'll be our 6th annual next April, is a huge seedling plant pop-up where we'll have vegetable seedlings, flowers, herbs, everything. And we've got a nice following on that one. And how that started is that we really just wanted to experiment ourselves and grow different things. And so many other people were saying, can I buy that from you? And so we just thought maybe we should have a plant pop-up sale. So that's our first pop-up of every year, is the plant sale. Something we always look forward to, something green, something to plant in your garden.
But when we started, we would have never. It was because of the tomatoes in the summer and the extra plants. And then her friend Laura will come up with these obscure peppers or obscure seeds that are wonderful, and the chefs just love them when you get them.
You might have received your Baker's Creek new 2024 catalog, and on the front cover is a purple tomato. And apparently that's already sold out, but we are staying on top of that, and hopefully we'll have that lovely
Find a purple Cherokee purple or something.
It's a very unique purple tomato, which, again, it's on the cover, and so sadly it's sold out, but we'll see what we can do. We'll keep you posted.
Something to look forward to.
Yep.
So you've mentioned pop-ups several times, and these happen in your barn, which is just an absolutely beautiful space. I mean, it is so fun to come in there and just have those big open doors, and you've got several vendors inside. You've got products everywhere. As you were designing the barn originally, did you have that in mind that we're going to host things here, or was it purely for production?
No, when we bought the place, there was a barn that was falling down. It had 2 or 3 mulberry trees growing through it, and it was in that spot with that door.
Exact same spot.
And I thought, well, this is I want a barn. So Sand Creek Post and Beam Barn up in Wayne, Nebraska, was selling and kind of making it big with these post and beam barns, which were like the barns that we grew up with. Her barn, I don't know, it was built in the 1890s, or my dad's barn was built in 1907, and we grew up, playing in the hay pile inside the barn. And so it's one of those things where I've always wanted one, and she let me have it.
But what you wanted about the barn is more of a functional kind of barn. And he researched what you could possibly do on the flooring so that he could drive a tractor or anything inside so that it was stable enough where he could
carry the loads. So
park a wagon, do whatever you need to do. So it was more of a functional.
Yeah, we wanted it completely open because most of the barns that they built in those years had posts every 8 feet because the roofs were weak, and they had so they were they weren't very friendly to driving it or having a dance in it, or if you wanted to have a wedding in our barn, which we've had 4 or 5 weddings in the barn, you could put rows of people without having posts in the way. So that it's a very open layout on this, which we did do that by design. Yeah. But and then the basement's where we have our food processing kitchen. So I don't know if you've ever been down there, but that has a kitchen down there where we can make the masa and do the black walnut syrup and
that's where
apple cider.
Our mill is, and
the feed mill's there, or the flour mill.
That's kind of where we go to make it happen.
So when did you start making contact with restaurants? Like when you're just a new farm and you don't have those established relationships yet. How do you start making those?
Our friend Ben.
Our friend Ben. So
Ben Maids.
we both
Ben Maids, yeah.
Ben got married in our barn. Ben helped me build my house. Ben was my son's friend in high school.
For those who don't know, Ben Maids he's part of the flagship restaurant group, and also co-owner of Au Courant.
Yeah, we had a lot.
The guy's an incredible chef.
But he hadn't started the restaurant yet, and he's thinking about doing it. And he said, "You think I should do it, Kevin?" I said, "Yes, Ben, you should do this."
Okay, I'm shaking your hand right now. If you helped inspire Au Courant in any way, shape, or form.
All I did was I said, "Ben, you should do it. And if you need to borrow some money or whatever, I've started several businesses in my life, and I said the best way you can enjoy the rest of your life and work really hard is to do something you're really good at." And obviously, you're really good at cooking.
He's pretty good at cooking.
When he was in high school, he would make stuff for his friends, right?
Oh, really?
When they would travel to Colorado and go skiing, and our neighbor was his scoutmaster.
Well, that's how it really started.
Our neighbors were his scoutmasters, kind of how. He's younger than I am by a long shot.
He's much younger. So I was going to start trying to sell to restaurants, and I knew Ben had worked at other restaurants. So I nervously called him up, and I said, "Ben, what do you want to buy?" He goes, "Whatever you grow, I'll buy." So it made me think about, okay, so perhaps I could grow some eggplant.
What am I good at?
Perhaps I could grow something that's unique. And that's really what restaurants are looking for. They're looking for that unique pepper.
Like Pegler, Cisco, the food supply people, the big trucks that pull around and do the routes, they can't deliver a heritage tomato. Because it'll be a ball of mush, and they're just, you know what? We can sell you this thing that looks like a softball. It's beautiful, and you throw it at the wall, and it won't break. But you can slice it, and it looks like a tomato. But you know the difference.
And you've been to those restaurants that are that way. So there's why those restaurants,
Ben's
and then
tomatoes,
there's
Oscar's tomatoes, Tim's tomatoes, and I could go down the list. They're heritage tomatoes if they can get them. You know what I mean?
It's worth it.
The difference in the plate that you get is wonderful.
That's a lesson that I learned, and frequent listeners to this will know this story. But kitchen table, Colin Duggan will only get his BLT is insane.
Incredible, probably because it's a heritage tomato, homemade mayonnaise, homemade bread, bacon that you get from Bill up or Cure Cooking in Fort Calhoun.
Exactly, but he will only sell that tomato for about 6 weeks of the year because that's when those tomatoes are freshest. And the moment that they're either not ripe enough or they start to decline,
It's over.
off the menu.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you guys are saying. Like, that's what makes farms like yours special is, you could just make run-of-the-mill tomatoes that you could go buy at the grocery store, and most diners might not even notice.
Until they
try a real one, and they go into the boiler room or V Mertz, and they have
that tomato.
And they're just like, this just ruined tomatoes for me.
But
That's flying first class one time. You fly first class one time to Europe, you're ruined.
Yeah.
You're a ruined man.
But what we also realized is that we needed that shelf stable merchandise as well.
Sure.
So
For
that's
cash flow
kind of
purposes.
that's where we kind of grew our business with the corn, the masa. So what I do is that we take corn and we nixtamolify it, which basically means you have to add a pH balance to it to take off that outer shell of the corn to make it easy to digest. So we do that. We rinse the alkali off of it. And then we either wet mill it to make it into masa, which Corner Kitchen, Oscar buys every week,
Genius.
loves that.
Yeah.
He's a terrific chef.
Or what we do is that we dry that and it becomes a hard crystalled corn, and then we stone mill it, and then that's into our hominy grits. So those are two items that become more shelf stable all throughout the year.
Because you keep the corn till you turn it into masa.
Yeah. There's other things like honeycomb. Honeycomb is a huge seller. We have honeybees. And what we realize is that the honeycomb is highly sought after more by the chefs. You know, there's a lot of places that sell honey in little bottles. But when you go to Au Courant, when you go to V Mertz, you get that charcuterie plate and you see that honeycomb, you want to know that it's local, you want to know that it's fresh, and that's probably one of our nice big year-round sellers is that just beautiful, sweet local honeycomb. So that's another thing.
We got the bees because of the vegetable garden and their fun hobby.
Yeah. And also the sweet corn. It's amazing to watch all the honeybees
pollinate the sweet corn.
On the pollination and everything. So,
Okay, so we've talked about, you mentioned Le Cordier a while ago.
Yeah.
And then also Ben, he hadn't opened his restaurant yet, but he was in the process. What was the first restaurant that did take the dive and buy something from you guys?
I think it was Au Courant. Au Courant. I can never pronounce it correctly.
I think it was Au Courant, but I think, I can't remember, but probably.
What was that feeling like?
Well, it's a little nervous. You're nervous because you're offering something that you only want them to think is the best. And so you're giving them something, you're selling them something. But then you watch them smile, and even better yet, you go and
we try
eat,
the food.
And it's just certainly amazing. I think that's what I truly enjoy about working with the chefs is that I'm a foodie. I love to cook, but I love to see what true
It's
chefs
such a fun circle.
really
The
create.
chefs love to hear from you that you love what they've done with your product.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
We just love to go eat at the restaurants that we sell.
It's just fascinating to see what they'll create because, it's not something that I will create.
She loves to sell to the well, you read off the list, the fabulous restaurants, the guys that are on their way to James Beard's or, you know what I mean? It's the
people that will truly create and really work with some of the things that we have.
Right.
Well, that's something that I actually wanted to ask you about, and I'm so glad that you guys take such joy in that because, I went through a few menus and was looking for some of your products in my research for this, and I found one. The Boiler Room currently has a dish. It's a short rib dish, but it has your polenta on it.
It's wonderful to try too.
And so I'm just I'm trying to imagine what it's like for you guys that you sell Tim Nicholson, the chef at the Boiler Room, you give him just this polenta, and you don't really know what he's going to do with it. And then you see, whether it's looking on a menu or seeing it on social media or even going into the restaurant, you see he's taken this polenta and made it just beautiful in itself. But then on top of it, he's got a braised short rib, he's got a sweet potato puree, crispy kale, and glazed shallots. Like, how fun is that for you to
really
see you starting with this thing that obviously you created and you worked really hard on it, but now it looks and tastes and everything about it is completely different. What is that feeling like for you?
To me, it's like art. They're like artists.
Yeah.
And we're selling paint.
Yeah,
That's a good way to put it.
Le Cordier won an award for the best bread in the state, in the 50 state, like
It was
2
like
years
Food
ago.
and Wine magazine.
Food and Wine
Okay.
magazine, best
Did this
bread,
whole thing.
and they and they use our our whole wheat flour in their sourdough.
Yeah.
And so for us, that was so cool.
It was
Just
very cool to be
seeing
a
them
part
win
of
an
Le
award
Cordier.
because Seth or John, I don't know, one of them said something about the fact that they only have to go 4 miles to get their flour for this particular bread. It's amazingly fresh, so
and
that's very
Boiler
cool.
Room does the same thing. V-Merch does the same
Yeah,
thing.
V-Merch has a drink on their recipe.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's called, it's a Matthew McConaughey knockoff of
Okay.
All Rye. And what it is, it's made with our honey and it's made with our apple cider, but it's made with rye whiskey. So the
All right.
I like it,
You
yeah.
know?
And it's
It's just fascinating to see if it's a drink or if it's Ted and Wally's and corn flour.
Yep, making ice cream out of it.
Making ice cream. It is truly amazing what they will do with ice cream. So I think that's the cool thing is that it's just not just the one plate that you would see.
we're so sad to see Sternella go away. We know.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Just
I know.
to cry.
Seriously,
know.
rest in peace.
I know. Matt really
Matt will
enjoyed.
come back doing something cool. We know he will. We know he will.
That's in
Yeah.
the works right now. Trust me. But anyway, getting back to this, do you remember the first time whether you guys went into a restaurant and had a dish with your products or you went to, Cone Flour or Ted and Wally's and had some ice cream, but the first time when you got a chance to taste what a chef or what a restaurant had done with something from Miller Dohrmann Farms?
Yeah, I think it was some whole wheat bread, whole wheat rye bread, or whole wheat sourdough bread
And that's it. We
from Lola's or somewhere. I
I
don't
was
know.
just going to mention
Lola's, yes.
Lola's had that on the menu. I mean, there's all different types of chefs out there that are using our whole
Product.
wheat. But I don't know, man. In between Le Cordier, Lola's,
Au Courant,
Au Courant, Boiler Room. I mean, all those.
Casa Bovina.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about Casa
Peter-
Bovino.
in the back
And
in the
Peter
bakery.
Bass, he makes all the bread for the Mikado.
He's been on the podcast.
So,
Great dude.
So we sell a lot to them. So, and we're always looking for new customers. If someone really wants to try our whole wheat flour and try to be a baker, go for it. We do sell on our website. You can buy a 2.5 pound bag of flour, and you can actually become that chef, that baker that you want to be.
We have a lot of amateur guys that will come and several times a year make their own whole wheat bread, and they're really
Yeah.
good chefs. They're just like they haven't started their restaurant yet.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe they
a
will.
lot of people go to our website and then they see what they can buy and go from there. Like I'm going to be putting out something about our Oaxacan green corn hominy. We're going to turn it into masa, and tamales is one of those things that is made around Christmas, and but you really need that fresh masa. So I think we'll be mentioning something about that we'll have Oaxacan green masa available for sale. This past fall, we did pop-ups, and two of the big pop-ups is my soup pop-up. And what I started doing about 5 years ago is I realized I had a lot of different produce that I
Can't always sell it all.
You can't always sell it all. You got to move it quickly. So I would process it and put it into different types of soup, whether it be the butternut soup, whether it be the tomato soup.
Peppers.
But the all important favorite is the sweet corn chowder soup.
Oh, of course.
So that's always a big seller.
Because we have about 10 days when the corn is ripe and not too ripe and ready to go, and you have to buy then, or it's 50 weeks you can't have it.
No.
Unless you process it and
Have
freeze
you ever picked an ear corn? No.
It's time, Dan, to
I
pick it.
think it's time.
I was thinking about that.
I
I think
think-
my sister
I think-
tried to go grow corn in our garden growing up. I don't think I ever picked it, and I don't think it was very
It's
successful.
time for you to come out
It's
in
time.
July and
It's
help
always
pick corn one
hot.
day.
It's always but it's so worth it. So what I do is we pick it and we have this pop up, but then during those next 5 days when the corn is really supple and sweet, I'll blanch it and cut it off the cob, and then you process it and you put it into quart bags,
freezer bags.
And in the fall, when I have a soup pop up, then I start making the sweet corn chowder with that. So a lot of people really like that. And then in Super Bowl, I'll have a super sweet deal where we'll have sweet corn chowder, cornbread. We'll probably have something really tasty from Nibs, chocolates. We always like that. So we're always kind of using different things to really highlight what people want to eat.
Okay, we've mentioned pop-ups so many times. It's time to dive into it. And I think we've probably mentioned most, if not all of them. Like, you guys have done... you do a holiday market every year. You have soup pop-ups, sweet corn pop-ups, plant pop-ups. You've had a comfort food pop-up in the past. I mean, you have really taken this barn and used it as a way to highlight your ingredients so well. How fun is it for you to invite people onto your grounds? So it's not just they're experiencing it out in restaurants or maybe even buying it and using it themselves, but they're coming onto your grounds and maybe getting inspired and seeing like, oh man, this sweet corn chowder is amazing. I wonder if I could make this on my own. Like, what is it like for you guys to host pop-ups?
We like to meet. We like to meet everybody.
Yeah, I think it's more like just listening to people.
Okay.
It's not really about hearing their stories of inspiration, but more getting to know who these people are.
Well, they come back over and over, and they become our friends. The customers
Yeah,
become your friends.
they may be a next door neighbor that you didn't know you had. It may be someone that is new to the area that found out about our pop-up through Facebook, and then they come out and they're like, really, you guys do this? And then the first thing they smell is the alfalfa in the barn. And I don't know if you remember the smell of the alfalfa. And for so many, that brings them back to their childhood as well, growing up on a farm, or just that sweet smell of alfalfa gives it that authentic barn feeling. So when we do a pop-up, it is a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and I love to listen to people. I love to hear them tell me all about how they enjoy it. One of the really cool, exciting things we sold this past holiday market was egg noodles.
Oh, yeah.
That's a true comfort. I don't know if you've ever had egg noodles.
Oh, of course.
Grandma made egg noodles, right?
Grandma made egg noodles. And that's another thing I'm going to be featuring here just in a little bit. Because of Christmas, you want to make sure that you have your comfort food for your Christmas meal. And
warms you up from the inside.
Egg noodles are a wonderful thing. We realized that was a true treasure that a lot of people enjoyed. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It goes from that barn of being a barn of function, a barn of sweat, to a barn filled with neighbors, filled with people enjoying food, and like Kevin said, maybe even a wedding reception here and there. But it is a lot of fun.
Okay, so, I mean, obviously pop-ups have become a huge part of the farm now. Who came up with the first idea to host a pop-up? Like, where did that arise? Jen, that was you?
Yeah, she wanted to do education of
that's right.
farm. I don't know what did you call it? We had Chad come teach a cheese making class in the barn, and then we thought, well, we've got this beautiful barn, we might as well do some
Use
stuff
it.
with it, and
The
then
thing is that people walk into the barn and they immediately are just
taken back, maybe.
taken back. And
the old
they
days,
smile and they see the warmth. And I figured, well, let's springboard that to some other things. And one thing led to another, and
Yeah,
there
we
you
found
go.
out what works for us, and what we can raise, what we can make. We do in the wintertime when things slow down a little bit. I do black walnut syrup, which is turned out to be pretty popular, but
which
it's
is
sort
very
of
popular.
obscure.
So,
No one,
have you ever tapped a
like
tree?
maple syrup.
No.
Okay, it's time again.
I'm going to be coming out every month, hanging out with you
that's
guys.
it. We're going to put you to work
it's
here.
sort of like the maple syrup in Vermont, but
Yeah.
Nebraska doesn't have very many sugar maple trees.
No. So it starts in February.
When the black walnut trees start running their sap, then we tap the trees and
Tap the trees. So
boil
it-
the sap into syrup, and it's really good.
So the sap runs when the temperature gets up to about 40, 50 degrees during the day.
And below
but then
freezing at night.
Below freezing at night. And with our weather these years, it's been really temperamental. So we've been trying to get out there earlier and earlier because we're finding out that it starts getting warmer and warmer. And once it stays above freezing for a while,
stop.
then it stops. So what he has figured out is that you tap all the syrup, the sap, and it's a 30-to-1 ratio. So if you get 30 pounds of sap,
Once you reduce it down.
1 pound of syrup.
Yeah.
it's 1 pound of syrup. So it becomes gold.
It's a lot of work.
It's,
but
it's a lot of work,
so
but
yummy.
it's so tasty. It's a very dark, nutty, syrupy, beautiful.
I had a buddy that discovered he had a maple tree in his front yard, and he got all excited. He was like, I'm going to tap this and I'm going to make maple syrup. And so he did it for like months and months and then
Oh, no.
reduced it down. And like he made pancakes for him and his wife, and they had enough syrup for like one pancake.
Yeah.
And so that was like my introduction. I was like, oh,
That's a lot of work.
Even just making syrup, like
a lot
real
of work.
syrup, is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why the bees are so busy out there doing the same thing. They're
honey.
flying 5 miles a day to collect a little bit of sap and then bring it back and then wave their little arms on it and dehydrate it down
Sheesh.
into honey. Same 30-to-1 ratio for them too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. So I like it when my bees are out working and I'm just not doing it. So
Exactly.
One of the things that I love about you guys' pop-ups is you have enough products and things that you could do with them that you could host a pop-up totally on your own, and it could be totally, this is just Miller Dohrmann Farm, Miller Dohrmann Farm. But you don't do that. At each one, at least that I've been to, you have chocolates and bonbons from Nibs. You've got bread from Michelle Stats or from Mary Pedersen. You've got beef and pork from Little Mountain Ranch. Why, when you guys were establishing these pop-ups, was it so important for you to say, this is an opportunity for us to highlight not only our stuff, but other people as well?
I truly believe in giving a person a leg up. What I find is that there's a lot of people out there younger than us that have these dreams to build businesses. And whether it was Lindy of Nibs, whether it's baking bread.
sanding chairs for Ben at Au Courant
Yeah.
when he was getting ready to open the restaurant. Silly.
That's another thing. But we believe in giving people a leg up. So what we did is we opened up our barn and we thought, okay, so we'll sell bread. Well, we got to have chocolates. And then
It's a little bit self-serving because there's almost nothing better than having somebody
That's
like
true.
Boz come out and make elote with your sweet corn.
yeah.
You know, so it's like, or we would have the bread makers come make bread out of your flour. So part of it is showing.
Here's what
Here's
you
what you
can do
can-
with it. Yeah.
You too could be a genius
you
like
can do
Mary
with it.
Pedersen, right? Or
Well, most of us can't. But,
there's-
hypothetically,
you could-
yes.
Hypothetically, theoretically, you might be able to,
Yes.
right? I mean,
There's
a chance.
a very small
Dumb
chance.
and dumber chance, like it is, but it's some chance.
So yeah, so I thoroughly enjoy seeing what others can create and watching
and
grow.
helping people, and it helps
Yeah.
traffic for us too.
Yeah.
So we have to sometimes put up a special line for the bread because
The bread line, you have to come
sells
out.
out
insane.
so fast.
Yeah, we literally have created a system to keep the bread line separate from everything else. Otherwise, it creates a jam-packed barn.
I found a quote from you, Jen, in another article that I want to bring up. And you said, "We enjoy the outdoors, we enjoy nature, and we enjoy sharing knowledge with others." And it's that last part that I want to focus on because, you know, obviously your farm offers great products to customers and to restaurants, but what makes you passionate about sharing the knowledge as well as the products?
Well, I listen to people. I listen and I look at their eyes and I see the awe. And once I start listening to their questions, I realize that they want to learn, that they are just fascinated with what we do. So it's a two-way street. We love listening to people, taking their questions, and then sharing that knowledge so that they learn and they know more about sustainable agriculture in Nebraska or the facts and fallacies of a farm. You know, a lot of people don't know about what really goes on a farm, but there is that romanticness, and so we start to educate people about what we have to offer and what they can buy from us or what we have to offer again. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
That's a great answer. Okay, so I've got two questions that I like to end every podcast with that I usually ask to chefs or restaurateurs. I'm going to tweak them slightly for you guys, but I still think we're going to get some really fun responses. The first one is this. What is one thing that you think most just consumers, normal people who don't work on a farm, don't understand about working on a farm that you wish they did understand?
It's 24/7.
Yeah, probably. Even if you're not in the field plowing, you're getting ready with the tractor or the equipment, or you're handling the grain storage. Keeping
or you doing the paperwork.
It's constantly learning and looking. For me, it's constantly learning of better ways to do things as well. You know,
exactly, and it's constantly for me expanding our market reach as well. So whether it's finding a new restaurant that may be opening up in the old market and educating them about what we have, or just looking at new products that maybe is on the cover of Baker's Creek catalog, and maybe we need to know that we need to bring it in. It's always looking and investigating.
Yeah, I think for us it's an interesting. It's complicated and interesting and always challenging. And something is always out to get you on the farm. If it's no rain or
no
too
rain.
much rain or hail
Or breakdowns.
Breakdowns. Silly things, you know. It's not as easy as sometimes. It seems romantic and cool, but some days are like,
and at 5 o'clock,
why am I doing this?
And at 5 o'clock, when everyone else kind of calls to
bed,
the day,
we're
still out there,
baling hay or whatever. But it's fun. Most of the time, it's fun.
Okay. And then on the positive side of things, what's your favorite thing about owning and working on a farm?
I don't know. Maybe the smell of fresh cut alfalfa.
Fresh cut alfalfa.
So silly.
The taste of what we
taste
grow.
Of sweet corn.
The taste of everything.
My friend Tim Kitely, who's always come out to our sweet corn pop-up, he's a good eater and a good bread maker, amateur. But he says when he was a kid, they would run from the field to the pot you husk the corn while you're running to the pot to get it into the thing, because every minute that you're out there, the starch is converting from sugar to starch, and the sweetness is going away for every minute. So if you can pick sweet corn fresh and get it to the pot right away.
And cook it. So in other words, what we're saying is that when you go to the store, even Whole Foods or whatever,
it's still 2 days old.
It's still 2 days old. If you go to the farmer's market, unless they picked it
that morning,
it's not going to be like our sweet corn. And that's what makes our
farmer's market's the closest you're going to find, where they picked it that morning and they selling it that afternoon. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Yeah. So those are wonderful things about farming. Also, being outside, having the fresh air is wonderful.
I think being outside, it's the seasons. Every season has an opportunity. Every season has something to look forward to. Whether it's winter, so we can plan for next year, whether it's spring, when that soil smells so fresh and you just want to start digging in there, to the hot summer days and sticky and sweaty, but it's a magical time. And every season there's there's some beauty.
Well, I thank you guys for all your hard work, because I've enjoyed some incredible dishes that would not have been the same without your special products. And listeners, I would just encourage you, as you start to go out to restaurants or look at social media posts or whatever, start looking for the name Miller Dohrmann Farms, because you're going to see it on a lot of menus. You hear it come out of chefs' mouths all the time, and there's a good reason for it. And follow Miller Dohrmann Farms on social media so you can see, hey, when's the pop-up coming up? What's fresh? What might be in their store right now? I don't think that you're probably going to become like a Mary Pedersen level chef or cook or baker, but
there's a chance.
Maybe there's hypothetically
There's a
a chance. And even if you're not at that level, you can still create some great food with these products.
Whole wheat pancakes are wonderful.
Oh,
and very
then
easy.
and then with our black walnut syrup.
With black walnut
There
syrup.
you go.
And how about a Miller Dohrmann Farm egg on top of that?
Oh boy.
Let's just keep it going. Let's throw some honey in there too.
and
It's just-
and some bacon
I
from
know.
Bill.
Okay.
There you go.
Exactly.
Jen and Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was a really fun time.
Thank
Thank you.
Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.